Welcome you all to Pop Investments. Tonight we have a special guest. We have Whitney A Ford, and we are so happy to have you here with us today. Whitney is an author. She's a mindset coach. She's also almost a graduate. She'll be graduating next month. So we are so excited to have you on. And Whitney has an amazing story, and we're going to talk with her tonight. So how are you doing, Whitney?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good.
Thank you
I'm
so much.
excited to be here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to have you on here. And will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so as we've already stated, I'm Whitney A Ford. Um, the gist of things is I'm very passionate about wellness as a whole, in every aspect of wellness, whether it be physical, emotional, social, spiritual, or intellectual. Um, like you were stating, I wear quite a few hats, but they all stem from that passion of every aspect of wellness. I'm a speaker, a writer, uh, I do document editing, I'm a graphic designer, I'm a published author of my book, Sister, How Are You? Um, I am a certified mindset coach, or that could be synonymous to a transitional coach. And bookings for that do open in June the 12th. And I am the founder of Y'all Ain't Gonna Worry Me movement and apparel. And all of that is just all together under the umbrella of Services by Whitney A Ford, LLC. So all that is just.
Listen, y'all ain't going to worry me. I like that movement. What is that about?
So when I um, present the Y'all Ain't Gonna Worry Me movement or talk up the apparel to anyone, it's usually, the first thought is just like, child, y'all ain't gonna worry me. I'm not worried about what y'all got going on, and like, I'm focused on me. And that's part of it, but it's not all of it. It's more so, in my mind, a little bit of background, I would guess, would help to understand my vision with it. Um, I was born with spina bifida. Um, in 2019, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and clinical depression. And there's a plethora of other things I could add there, but you, you get the gist. So it's not just people that, you know, can throw us off and are not things that we should allow to worry us. Sometimes it's circumstances,
Right.
or sometimes it's spiritual things.
Yeah.
And so I would sum it up in simplest. What would come to my mind first would be the scripture that goes, you know, which one of you by worry can add one
Single
cubit to
out.
your stature?
Yes.
And so it to me, it's like a reminder to myself, and I'm not. It doesn't cure it,
Right.
but to tell myself like, okay, yeah, all this stuff is happening and everything, but y'all spirits, y'all, mental health issues or what have you, whatever you would call that, um, ailments, whether they be physical, all these things is not going to deter me or hold me back. Y'all ain't gonna worry me.
I love that. So I love that grouping because, like you say, y'all ain't gonna worry me. It might not just be people, it's these circumstances that we all face in life. And
Yes.
just seeing, like, I love people like you. You're resilient. I call that pop resilience because even though circumstances happen, we don't let those define us. And you're not letting that define you. So I appreciate you. And listen, somebody on here needs to know, y'all, ain't gonna worry me. Meaning
Yes.
those issues and the things that's going on in life, don't let it worry you. You have to speak positive. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about that in a second. But I am gonna ask you, what made you want to become an author? And what made you decide to write the book, Sister, How Are You?
So I actually wrote Sister How Are You in May of 2017, I believe. Or I published it in May of 2017. It actually, a lot of the poetry, and it is poetry, a lot of the poetry in the book was written over different time spans. It actually was more so my poetry book that I kept published. Um, and the reason, there's a couple of reasons. I had always wanted to uh, publish, and that I in the future want to publish, more so like chapter books and things like that, autobiographies. But I never. No, there's this sense of like I want to do it, but how do I do it, or why do I do it? And you kind of just have to do it sometimes. And what pushed me to just do it was in 2017, in April of 2017, I was crowned Miss Wheelchair Alabama 2017. And after that, of course, I was to go to the national pageant, and I had to raise certain funds and what have you. And a friend of mine just suggested, you publish your poetry, and so I did. And sure enough, I raised enough funds, to go to the national pageant and what have you. And I just kind of, at the time, I was about 22, 23. I was actually kind of surprised by the response. And so that was the push to do it. But the why, as far as the contents of the book and why um, I titled it Sister, How Are You? I mentioned, and actually, I published this book before I even came to, I guess, before I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety and things like that. But I was in that space of I'm feeling something, I just don't know what. Um, so a lot of it was during some of my heavier days. I would write a lot of things, and I really thank God for a lot of things I'm just now getting the language for that I would feel then, and poetry was my outlet, or it would be so weird to me because it's like I'm writing down words and they're making sense, but I can't say that to somebody. And so I wrote it at a time where I was not sure or confident that people cared to know how I was. And I got this, from having that experience, I got this burden for the need to really, as they say, check on your friends or your loved ones or what have you. I don't say check on your strong friends because I don't believe that there is a singular strong friend. I believe that we all have strong points, and so check on all your friends. So that's why titled it Sister, How Are You? Because I believe that we've got to do better and not just even asking, because sometimes it just kind of rolls off the tongue. And then, but have you ever just kind of been walking into maybe work or somewhere and you see your coworker or someone that's always there and you say, "Hey, how are you?" But you're kind of just saying it, and before you can tell them the answer, they're already walking away
Yes.
because they just kind of accustomed to ask it, but they're not really waiting to hear the answer. So, with that in mind, is why I tell it that actually, if you give me a second, I can pick one up and show you what it looks like.
Okay.
Should have had one on the desk. Where's this?
Okay. And I've seen it
Um,
on your page. Yep. If you move it over, there we go. Yep.
and I
Sister,
wonder.
how are you? And you're right, because a lot of times we do like see people and we're not really asking really, how are you? Sometimes people just need like a lending ear. Like they just want to be heard. And
Yes.
we have to listen. And so I love that title, and I love the fact that you're taking everything, every adversity, and you're turning around.
And I wanted to show you just because. So this the title page, or I would say the cover rather, is a collage of women, and then it of course has the title over it. And every woman in this collage is a woman that I know.
Oh wow.
Um, and it kind of gives more than just like women from different walks of life, and we all have a different story, so it's worth listening to,
We all have a different story. And that's the reason why one of the reasons why I have pop investments is to hear other people's stories, because we
Yes.
can learn a lot from each other and then we can relate to one another as well. And when we hear stories of resilience, that just makes us want to keep going. So we're gonna stay right here because you mentioned anxiety. And so I
Mhm.
want to know again, so I'm kind of putting that together. My other question was, why are you passionate about suicide prevention?
Mhm. And so I don't know if I mentioned the year of me seeking out, a, starting therapy and all of that, and being diagnosed and what have you. That was in 2019. I published that book in 2017, and a lot of like I said, they were from just kind of my journal, and a lot of them were even further back than that. So it's kind of an undoing of, or unraveling of that. But I would say that it's been there in different ways all of my life, and with suicide prevention, with being a person who was born with um, physical disabilities, it's like any child is trying to figure out the world already. And then there's trying to figure out the world and trying to figure out um, your world and it being different and why it's different, and still just being a kid, or still just being a teenager, or even now still just being a woman. It's ongoing. Um, that's always been a thing for me. And so my one of my encounters, I spoke to my pastor in an interview for suicide prevention a couple of years back, just about my story. Even with that, when I was 16 years old, I did attempt suicide. Um, Not in a very, and then that goes back to the how are you, because I didn't attempt it in a way that you would even think I was attempting it until I told you that I did it on purpose. Because all I did was stop taking my medicine. Um, and even in that instance, it took me a while to, because the only people who knew were me and God. And with that experience, I actually did pass, but I was revived. And so there was this thing happened to her, and we're glad you're back, and not we're glad you're back, but we're glad you're okay, and all of that. But me trying to wrap my head around what just happened, like I think I wanted that, and then it happened, and then I realized I didn't want it, but it could have happened anyway, you know. Um, and so for me, I learned that, and I won't say it goes for everybody because I'm only one person. I always try to say that when I speak on um, really every subject, but especially suicide prevention. But I learned that it's not necessarily that I didn't want to be here permanently. I didn't want the things that were happening were overwhelming me, and it felt like the answer was to not be here. So if I got a different answer, then, Now, that wasn't the last time that it crossed my mind, but I learned from that. Um, and in 2000, and I want to say probably around the same time as the book, 16 or 17, I started the suicide doors conversation. And I don't know what it is with me with these abstract names that give you one idea and I have to explain to you, because a lot of people, of course, when you hear suicide doors, you think about cars, but the way that I think of that is kind of adjacent to the different walks of life of different women. We all don't have the same story. They may connect somehow and intersect, but that's also what can be with suicide. I think a lot of the problem with the conversation that a lot of us try to have with it is we try to give it one answer when there's different situations and different remedies for different ailments, and the only way that you're going to know to switch the answer or give the person a different medicine that you would have gave them had you not heard their story is to ask. But those doors represent those different avenues of the way it can come in, and make a person feel that it's the answer. And it's not, there's not one, there's dozens, there's over dozens. There's a quote that I use usually when I bring up the suicide doors conversation, and it's by, I hope I'm saying his name right. I believe it's either it's Emil or Emily Dickinson, and paraphrasing it, it says, though suicide is a solitary act, it has various ways that it can connect, or it comes from various things like that. So that's kind of where the title Suicide Doors come from. And during I do it every September, and I it's been different ways. When I first started, we were doing conference calls, just letting people share their story. Not We're not trying to fix anybody. We're just sharing and putting it out there. I believe last year or the year before, I kind of just went live on um, my previous Facebook page because I ended up having to start a new one, and just talking about different things like QPR, question, persuade, refer, and how you approach a person, you know, and, not just going straight to panic, because you may not need to panic. Just because a person is feeling that way doesn't mean that they have the means to, commit to it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they are. That just means that they're having the thought. So you ask them, do you have, are you in a position right now where you're physically, you're presently, do you have a gun? Do you, what is this, the environment? You question, you get those answers. And then persuade is reminding them of reasons why they are here. Whether and that looks different for each person. It may be a church, maybe they're not a religious person, maybe it's just their family, maybe it's a book club. And then there's refer. If you need to talk, call the suicide hotline, or I'm always here. Do you need me to come over? Give them points of reference. So I go over that, um, share parts of my story, kind of just whatever I'm led to do that
Yeah.
year, or just asking people, what is holding them back from seeking out therapy,
Mhm.
if they want to, they don't want to. Um, just having a conversation, literally the suicide doors conversation.
I love that when you say doors because you're right. There are so many avenues. And like you say, everyone has a different story. And so there are different people are fighting different demons in life. And a lot of people are fighting things and no one knows nothing about.
Yeah.
And having those conversations, that is so amazing. Like you said, you're not trying to cure anyone, but just providing a safe outlet for people to talk. Because sometimes I think if people can talk to someone and relate, that's
Mhm.
the persuading part. So
Mhm.
I love that. I really do. And I do want to continue and tell someone that needs therapy, because that's one thing that we having a lot in the black race or people of color sometimes is I don't need therapy. So what would you tell someone, and this is kind of deviating from our questions, but what would you tell someone who might be thinking about therapy or who really knows they need therapy but they're afraid to take that first step? what would you tell that person that's afraid to take that first step to therapy?
I would tell them to take baby steps. Um, to get to the big step that they feel like therapy is, whether it's journaling or, until you do feel comfortable taking that step, do you have someone who you trust to speak with? Now, and I do want to address that because in our world today, and I've been one of those people until I started to attend therapy myself. Having a trusted friend or someone to talk to is not the same thing as having a therapist. Having a therapist is having someone to help you draw out a plan and professional coping methods and things like that. However, until you are ready to make that step, I would seek out, just that one person that, because when we get to, especially if we're talking about nearing thoughts of suicide, all bets are off with, you know, not saying, not doing it. We want you to be here. So, someone that you trust with all of that would be the first step. If you don't feel comfortable seeking out a therapist first, now, and it doesn't replace one, maybe a coach. Um, and just coming to your own of realizing, why, asking yourself why you feel that way. For me, I wouldn't even say that I did come to the conclusion to where I just kind of just told my doctors, and, well, my primary doctor, and really made a point about it in 2019, which was after the loss of my both maternal and paternal grandmother, about, I want to say, less than 6 months apart. And it was kind of, bringing it to a head, but I wouldn't say that I haven't wanted to way before that. It's just you go through the thoughts of, am I crazy? Or how are people gonna look at me? Or am I gonna make other people feel like they have wronged me? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is your loved ones love you. And rather than see harm come to you, even if it's at the expense of maybe something that they did wrong, or whether intentionally or unintentionally, they want you to get that help. They just don't know they don't know the extent to where you need it. Um, and to even a step further than seeking out a friend or someone who you trust with these things, someone who has taken that step and saying, "Hey, how does this work?" If your questions are things like, "Hey, I'm afraid if I say too much," because one of my things was, if I'm having thoughts of harm or what have you, and I tell my therapist, am I gonna be locked up somewhere?
Yeah.
And that's not what's gonna happen. As long as you're not, like I said before, in the moment of actually trying to do that. Because sometimes thoughts happen, thoughts are thoughts, um, and you can talk through those thoughts. And so you just kind of have to figure out why you feel that way and make peace with that and make those baby steps towards the big step that you see therapy as. And you don't, I want to address that. Am I crazy? You don't, yes, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, but you don't have to have a mental health issue to seek a therapist. You don't have to, have a dramatic horror story to see a therapist.
Because life happens to
Life is
everyone.
hard.
Yes, it is.
and and we're all humans, and sometimes things happen that hurt us and they may not have been intentional, but they did hurt us. And so we just have to address them
Yeah.
so that we can live life in a full way.
And I love the fact that you said, like you said, address it so that you can live life. Don't let it just stay bottled in when
Yeah.
there are mechanisms to help people. And we have
Yes.
so many mechanisms that will help us. And we've mentioned it before on the show about therapy. And like you said, is for everyone. It's for they have therapists for teachers. I've been meaning to call. In fact, I actually put the number in for educators because educators go through a lot. And so there are therapists for everyone, and just being able to talk to someone about whatever's going you're going through, and then like you said, they help you develop a plan, and then they're just not the people you know. Sometimes you need someone who you don't know to be able to talk to.
Yes.
And I am a firm believer in therapy, and I have students, and it's amazing these young people are getting it right. I've got students and they will say they're going to therapy, and that's amazing to be
That
young
is amazing.
and to be an advocate for yourself, to come in,
Yes.
I've got to go to therapy today. And this is
And
like
at
a
a young age.
18-year-old, right? But that is the great thing. Being able to know that there are people that can help me. It's just like you said, like going to the doctor, being able to make sure you take care of yourself and taking your medication. Like those are steps to living. And so when you said one of the ways that you basically tried to take your life was by stopping taking your medicine. And I wonder how
Mhm.
many people hear that and they're like, you know what? I did stop taking care of myself. I did stop taking that medicine, and I know that medicine is going to help me.
Yeah.
Um, so thank you so much for being so transparent, because what I realize is transparency helps us all. Um,
Yes.
Transparent, you free other people.
Yes.
So you telling your story is helping to free someone. And I do have a question. We're gonna get to the vegan part at the end. I'm gonna ask you about the vegan in a second.
Okay.
And basically, he told me about adversity. So, what makes you go on? Like, what fuels you? What fuels Whitney to go on in the face of any adversity that she may have? What fuels you?
Well, firstly, I do want to say, because I'm in no way saying that I'm like this superhuman individual that's like, oh, this is happening, but I don't care. I'm gonna just keep going. That's not how it works. No. Um, However, I think what's really important when faced with adversity is, believe it or not, to sit with it. Don't sit with it for too long, but sit with it and figure it out. Um, where is this stemming from? Um, when did I start feeling like this? And to just, because you can't. I have here half the reason we face adversity is because we, in fact, are not facing it. We're not facing it. You, we live in a time where it's just like, don't, and that's why I make sure I specify what I mean by y'all ain't gonna worry me, because we're not just saying y'all ain't, we gonna, because that's ignoring. That's what that is. And when you ignore something, yeah, you get by, but you don't get away. It comes back up because it's going to keep bothering you or keep doing whatever it is until it's addressed. And so half the not even the reason, half the battle of facing adversity is to actually face the adversity. What is this? Why is it happening? Um, why does this make you feel this way? Or do I need to accept it? How do I accept it? Um, just all
Those
of the questions that are necessary for the specific adversity at hand. The
those are
nine is
good questions. Those are some good questions. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but but actually asking yourself, like you're right, like not just saying, okay, I'm going through this, but actually addressing it.
yes,
What is happening to me? Why am I feeling this way?
yes. And it's easier said than done. It is. And it's not always done. You don't, just like I said, I'm not just a person that just, oh, I'm not gonna. You, in some instances, maybe you can't ask yourself and know the answer right away. Sometimes you might not. Sometimes it might take you some time to really sit with it. Um, what is it in Job where I want to say, like, he sat in his ashes. He just, and reading it, you kind of get the feel of it's like, I don't even know. I'm gonna sit. I'm gonna sit. I'm just gonna sit. Um, and sometimes when you sit and you allow, because sometimes me, I'm gonna speak for myself. My emotions can be way up there, after my fingertips, and it's gonna take some time to even hear yourself think and get those answers of why am I feeling this way, what, how, when, because you gotta get quiet first. And you might not be saying nothing, but you gotta get quiet up here first. Um, and allow to get past, and that goes back to y'all ain't gonna worry me, especially the spiritual part, because it's like you have to get past the, well, they said this, and what if I say this and do this, then they gonna this, and um, I feel like this, and they got me messed up, and all of that, and just in the silence, that's when you get the answer to the questions. When you're finally just like, silent, letting your words be few. Um, so
And
that you can hear.
yeah, and I understand that. So I'm gonna share with you, Whitney, because you and I just became Facebook friends, and then we became Instagram friends. So I had
Mm-hmm.
open heart surgery in 2020,
Mm,
and I was scared. Not gonna lie, I believe in God and everything, but I was scared. So then, I was like, do I have this surgery? Because or do I not? And then I came to terms that you've got to have this surgery and you're going to be okay no matter what way. And I had to sit still and I had to trust God and just know that it was going to be okay and accept whatever reality was whatever reality. And so even with me, when I had open heart surgery, excuse me for the bags, they're over here on my
you're
side.
fine.
Um, but I created this book. And before I had my surgery, it was a book and it's a book with pictures in it. So I created
Mm,
it for my son, just in case. And this was my just in case book.
mm-hmm.
So, like
Mm-hmm.
you said, when you face adversity, you have to face it full fledged. And this was
Yeah.
my just in case. I wanted my son to have pictures of us. And so that was my just in case, and I faced it. And I'm here,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful
Yeah.
that I'm here.
Yeah.
And like you said, we all have a story, and we go through things in life.
Yeah.
Really do.
And just because, to piggyback back off of what you just shared, and this is my first time really even speaking on it. I'm just to let you to give more of a scope of it's ongoing. Um, I was born with spina bifida. I didn't really specify what that is.
Mhm,
Um, it's Latin for split spine. That means when I was developing in my mother's womb, my spine did not fully develop correctly or close correctly.
mhm,
And so when I was born, it had to be closed up. And long story short, I caused some disabilities. Um, with that, I'm blessed to be able to walk with forearm crutches. Um, but as I've gotten older, I've used a chair a little more than I did when I was young, and that's always a constant. It's like, oh, you're the, you're getting dependent on this chair and all this stuff. But in November, let me not get lost in the story. In November, I and I because of the spina bifida, by the way, I don't have much feeling on the lower part of my body. I have some, and it's like some tiny, but I don't really have any. I had this sore on um, the big toe on my foot, on my left foot, and it ended up getting infected. It ended up getting infected to the bone, to where, and that's happened before, but it never got to the bone. Um, and I was faced with that same thing of just like, um, do I do this? Do I don't? Because of course, when it got to the bone, they had to take it. Um, and that was in November, so I'm still, and I probably will be wrapping my head around it for the rest of my life. Just like every other little piece of the puzzle. But now it's just like, okay, I've always been this like, well, I've had the pride, for lack of better words, of, because I can get up with these crutches, I am going to. And the way that the more and more that changes, that's one of those things where you have to just, and it's every day, to just sit and get quiet with it. And that's why I say you might not be able to get quiet and get those answers and get that peace in an instant every time. Sometimes you need to sit in the quiet for a week or what have you, X amount of time. But and so now it's just like, okay, it's different. Now I'm more apt to be swollen, and it's kind of a weird place because it's like here I am trying to still push, but am I doing something wrong by trying to do that? Because now it may cause me swelling or what have you, and all this different stuff. So from there to, or from here to back when I stopped trying to stop, when I stopped taking the medicine or the things in between, coming of age and feeling like I couldn't. I remember feeling like heels were such a big deal to me that I couldn't walk in heels when I was a teenager. I never really tried it, but it was such. I remember it being such a feeling like something was really wrong with me because I couldn't walk in heels, or you know, really wanting to just do girly stuff, which is things that already are normal for any young lady, of course. So I would say to anyone that's listening that, because we all have a story like that. It just sounds different. It's different details. And that's also something that I had to learn myself, because it's like one of the things that a lot of people that may be battling thoughts and things like that is you get so close in to where you almost think you're the only one that this is this crazy for. And I have to remind myself, I still do, that, you're not the only one. We all have some things going on in our lives. And that's why I say my title is Mindset Coach. But there's these certain um, more, I guess, known words for titles and niche. So you could call it transitional, because with these different things, you have what's important in them is the transition to from here to there. Like, I have to rearrange thought patterns and rearrange life, and that can be challenging.
I think we're all going through some type of transition in life, because
Yes.
that's basically what life is about. It's about constant change and transition and feelings in your mind. It's just so it's evolving constantly,
Constantly.
constantly. So I like that. And like you said, transformation, coaching. I'm gonna ask you that in a second, because I'm gonna have you tell everyone where they can find you. And of course we'll drop your link down low. But before, because we've got always try to keep it within an hour, and we've got 10 minutes, and this is such a great conversation. I thank you so much for this interview. But before
Thank you.
I ask you about being vegan, and where did that come? Because okay, so what is, I don't want to mess up your phrase. You have the best phrase. Okay, first of
Oh, thank you.
Y'all ain't gonna worry me. And then the suicide doors, I love that. I think that is really like that's deep. And then let's get some light. Let's talk about the I eat. Can you say it? What is it? I water.
I eat plants and water humans. So that pretty much all these things, and that's why everything is grouped up under the umbrella of services by Whitney A Ford, because they're different words, but they kind of intersect. Um, with the I eat plants and water humans, it's for me speaking to, of course, my plant based journey, as well as we're plants. Um, I say we're animals. That's debatable to me. We're plants. Um, we need watering. We need, shade and sun and care. And that's my slogan because I want that to be something that's known when you think of me. Um, we treat each other. They say people say in certain situations like it's dog eat dog, or treat you treat me like a piece of meat or what have you. So it's like I eat plants and I water humans. Humans aren't aren't just a piece of meat or what have you. They're something to be nurtured, and that's what I want to do through all the things that I offer. Is it's just that water humans. I want to have women to, when they look into, when they open up, sister, how are you, to feel understood and hugged, and for it to trigger them to dig deeper in any help they may need, or to, start that journey of discovering whatever it is that they need to discover. When I, help people with graphic design or with any document editing or any resumes, I want to water that human and have them know, there's someone that I can reach out to that wants me to reach my goals. And of course, none of my services are for a particular set of people. However, I live with a physical disability, and I know even though there are laws in place, there's still going to be people to discriminate certain things. And so, if I can be of help to do something as small as helping them to build a resume, or with their flyer, or what have you, then I want to do that. And with mindset or transitional coaching, I want to help other individuals who maybe they can afford um, therapy, and I don't want to replace therapy. I do not replace therapy. I cannot replace therapy. However, I can listen, and I can have a conversation with you that helps you to come to the um, the conclusion that you need to come to. And I'm not trying to make you come to a certain conclusion. It's just thought provoking so you can reach your conclusion. Um, and all of that to me is watering humans. And that's not all I want to do, but I'm trying to just do a little by little.
So listen, Whitney, I was looking through my phone really quickly. I was trying to do it, and it's funny because I saw this on Pinterest, and it says if speaking kindly to plants help them grow, imagine what speaking kindly to humans can do. And so that
Hmm.
is right there.
That's exactly right.
And so you just put me in the mind because that was on April 9th, and I saw it and I was like, dang, that's deep. So I love that, like you said, watering humans. That's what we need because we are plants. We need water. We need sunlight. You're right. We need the energy. We need all of
Hmm.
it. We need photosynthesis.
Yes.
Or
My favorite flower is the sunflower because when they don't get sunlight, they turn towards each other. And I'm assuming feed off of each other, help each other.
you so deep. Why are you so deep, Whitney? You are a very deep person. But I love it. I really, really love it. You're right. They turn on each other. And that's what humans do when they don't have the right energy and the right love and the right sun
Yeah,
and the
that's what
right
you should
water.
do.
You're right. Hey, that's deep. Oh my goodness. Whitney, I am so glad to have met you. And this is
I'm glad to have met you too.
thank you. This is the power of social media, just being able to interact with each other and meet people and you,
I don't even think I really did I answer the question?
to me you did.
Okay.
Yes, you
Honestly, as long as I did to you.
You did. Yes, you did. You answered why was that your title? And also vegan. Um yeah. So you got deep. You really got really deep. So what made you become we got 3 minutes, so I want to keep it that way because we know people's attention span. But yeah, why
Hmm.
did you become vegan?
So, I always had some very different taste buds, I would say. But I did not like meat or dairy, but it just always made me feel, sluggish and what have you. But that wasn't enough to cause me to go vegan because I didn't go vegan until uh, May 1st will be 2 years. So I haven't been on the journey as long as some, but I would say a lot of health reasons.
Mhm.
Just because I live with so many things, and I only have two eyes. you know, I can't. It's impossible to catch everything at every time. Unfortunately, no matter how hard you try, and even being vegan, it's not a cure for being human.
Yeah.
But I found that you can't really depend on, and I'm not telling anybody to go throw away their medicines and stop going to the doctor, but I wouldn't depend only on that. Then there are some who completely, omit that. That is up to you. I like to have that extra cushion, what have you, or a surety. Um, in 2000 and because it's been 2 years, around that time, I ended up having some issues with my uterus,
Mm.
and it didn't end up being what it was. The I was told that I had cysts on
Mhm.
my ovaries, and it gave me quite the scare, just because I don't have any children. Um, and this happened around the passing of my grandmothers. And um, one of the one of the only ways that I was coping at the time was because if I showed you a picture, I look like the spinning image of both of them. And so my something I would tell myself to cope was like, okay, when I have children, I'm going to see them in the child. And after I had a follow up from um, the surgery I ended up having to have, that it was kind of hinted at that I may have issues carrying or what have you, because I'm just for whatever reason. And so I just decided to take matters and not necessarily into my own hands, because they're never in my hands, but to do what I can. I did a live with someone in February, up under the subject of veganism, and one of the things that I said in it was, just do what you can while you can, and then until you can do better. So just start wherever you can. I had that uterine issue, and also, being that I have the diagnosis that I have, I've been I have a neurogenic bladder with my spina bifida, and so I'm really apt to UTIs, and I've gone through sepsis and just all kinds of stuff with that. So I have been exposed to a lot of antibiotics in my lifetime, and so I ended up getting lactose, and so little by little, all these things moving up. I just was like, it's time for me to go ahead and do it, because, like I told you, my taste buds were always kind of different, but I don't know if it ties into the anxiety or not. But I've always been like, well, I don't want to inconvenience anybody. I don't want to be the one that's like, do you have this or what's in it and all that. I don't want to be, an inconvenience or a burden or anything like that. But once all these things started happening, it's like, okay, it's time to just do it. And so I did it.
Well, I have my times when I decide I'm gonna be vegan, and there are some times where I work on, like, trying not to eat as much meat. So you're right, it's all about a lifestyle change and doing a little bit at a time, um, and just doing what is good for you and for us health-wise, all of us, towards our health. So, Whitney, you are, of course, we have to find out where people can meet you, not meet you, where people can find your services, because you are housed up under Whitney A Ford Services, right? Is that it?
Yes, you're really panicking right now.
I know. I don't know what happened. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I'm just kind of making sure I understand
Where can people find you?
where.
Sorry, it is. I hear it. Where
Okay,
where can people find you?
people can find me. So my link tree has just the links to everything on it. My link tree is linktree/Whitney A Ford 1, and that link is in my Instagram bio. It's in my Facebook bio. It's in every social media page that I have. It's in the bio. I will add the link to book coaching closer to date. It's because the books will be open in June, and so mid-April. So we're getting there, and
Oh, you all, sorry. Whitney went out. So hopefully she can come back in so we can close this out. But as you all can see, Whitney is very, very resilient. And I am so honored that she shared her story with us here on Pop Investments. And I think we can learn a lot from her. We all have a story, but it's about being resilient, it's about overcoming, and that is exactly what life is about. So I hope you all were able to get something from this, and I know you all were. Please leave some comments. Show Whitney some love, and her information is down in the comments if you all want to contact her, or if you want to have her on as a guest speaker. We'd love to have y'all contact her. So again, I am Erin Janelle Dickey. Thank you so much for being a part of Pop Investments and watching this special episode. I thank you all so very much.